Hey guys, so today is a prep video for Lab 5, Parts B, C, and D. I'll talk separately about the stats at a different moment, but right now let's kind of talk through the next stages in the lab cycle. At this point, what you're writing for me are mock sections of, I would say, a method section, right? You did the procedure, a little bit a while back, but now we're looking at participants and we're looking at materials. And materials are what you see in C and D. You would discuss both tasks. So let's talk about section B first. Section B, what I would like to know is your experiment going to need one group? Is it going to need two groups? Is there a control group? Do you need a control group? And it depends on what kind of research question you're asking. So that should be a big part of whatever the section is. And then things that you're controlling in that population, like, does knowledge of other languages matter? Do they need to be bilingual? Do they need to be monolingual? Need to be natives of something? This is the moment to tell me that. The other thing that's in here that is we haven't talked about for a little while, but we have talked about is the word sample. And we talked about that in the first 4 or 5 weeks of class. If I had to make an educated guess, I would say that's either week 2, 3, or 4, but I can go and look it up too if you guys don't find it before we talk again. But remember, sampling had to do with random sampling or stratified sampling and random sampling is basically just, remember, going out and picking people off of the group, off of the street, you know. Whereas stratified sampling, maybe you have different proficiency levels or age groups or something, and you sample within those groups specifically. So stratified and random can go together as long as you're doing it. I'm randomly picking within this group and randomly picking within this group. And there were some other options too. But I want you to just imagine for a second you had to recruit the groups you're talking about. What generally are you doing for that? And some of you, it's, I'm going to take an entire classroom of people because it matters that they're all French 102 or something, right? So just keep that in mind. That's what the word sample means here, right? How did you acquire the participants? Section C and D are examples from what's going to eventually be your materials. I want you to envision that you, in addition to describing what's going to be in the materials, give me a a written out example of each subtype in your experiment. Now, if we think back, and I'm going to use an Excel sheet to make this point, which will be useful because it has a lot to do with what you'll need to do for the experimenter facing materials due around April 30th. Okay, just like this lab is due around April 16th. We're not on a strict due date situation anymore because of this remote thing is a little bit more flexible. But roughly Lab 5 around April 16th and roughly the materials around April 30th. Okay, so one of each type. Let's imagine, for example, that I'm doing that subject-verb agreement study we've been talking about. And let's imagine I need versions. So we're going to call this variable one as type, right? And let's say that type is I want correct and violation versions of whatever it is I'm going to be testing. So since my particular study was going to be on subject-verb agreement, the correct one can be something like the boy is tall, and the violation is like the boy are tall. Something like that, okay? So if my only variable is agree, not agree, then for the sections where I'm asking you for sample items, I would say, okay, here's the correct subject-verb agreement, here's the wrong subject-verb agreement. And for a lot of you, that's the extent of the variables you're using. Some of you have more, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Put here, you can say a sentence, you can say item, whatever. When you go to make the materials for April 30th-ish, this will be kind of multiplied out. And so instead of 2 examples, we're shooting for 8 examples for your study. And you'll know how many there are if you number them. Right. which would be taking this pattern and repeating it, right? So the boy's tall, the boy are tall. The girl is strong, the girl are strong. The man is helpful, the man are helpful. The woman is, I don't know, short, the women are short. Whatever, something like that. Okay, and so you roughly want 8 items when you get to the material design section per task. And some of you will have the same items in each task, which I think is probably a question you guys will have. If you're doing like the written and the oral version, you're going to have the same item type, but when you go to describe it, in the description part of section C and D for this lab, you will say, ah, this one's written, and ah, this one's oral, and they'll hear it tape recorded over, or they'll be however it is you're going to do it. Okay. So for example, this would be a sufficient version of experimenter-facing materials if all I was doing was subject-verb agreement and my only variable was correct versus violation. Okay. Now keep in mind, I could have 2 variables. I could say, well, what if I wanted to do gender? What if I wanted to do singular versus plural? Let's try that one. Number, and I'll make this one singular and plural, singular, plural, and then we'll do, singular, 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 plural, 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 plural. And this is one of the reasons that I like for you to make experimental materials in Excel, is you can sort, you can count things if you need to count them using a pivot table, whatever it is you need to do, you can see it. But as you can see, this column now is not reflecting what's happening. These need to be plural. So I could say the men are helpful, but notice that the violation condition for plural, you actually need the men is helpful, right? Plural, the women are short, and then the plural violation, the women, the women is short, okay? So if I'm having 2 variables, right, and these are the combinations, right? So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 correct, 1, 2, 3, 4 violation, and of those, half are singular and half are plural, right? And then here's the item. So if I have 2 variables, this is more or less how that looks. And still, I'm only asking you for 8. If you would like to make more, that's fine. Please don't send me 50 things or really even 30 things. Like, if you feel like you need to do more, cool. But, whereas if, for example, I had a variable that had, let's say, 3 levels, so instead of correct and violation, I then had baseline, whatever that would be, something where the singular and plural is hard to see the past tense. I don't know. Something, so if I had a third condition here under one of these variables, then maybe it would make sense to make 9 instead of 8 because you could divide it by 3. Regardless, roughly 8 or 9 if you have a 3 somewhere in there, okay? Okay, so this is more or less what the experimenter facing material is going to be at the end of the month. But this tells me a lot about what items need to show up in Lab 5. Because if I have 2 variables, that means I need to show a correct singular and a violation singular and a correct plural and a violation plural. So if eventually I want 2 variables, just like this, I actually need to port 4 items in section C or D, whichever one has these many variables, or both. Okay, because I need to see every combination. And then from there, you just need to multiply it out to get to roughly 8, or a few more if you want. Okay, I think that covers us for Lab 5. So yeah, participants, description plus items, description plus items. If you don't know what a methods section looks like, refer to your article or any of the other articles posted on our Blackboard page under, I think, assigned articles. If you click through several of those that some of your classmates are working on, you'll see more examples of method sections. And you'll get a sense of kind of what does it mean when I say, hey, you need a materials description, essentially. Okay? All right, send me questions about this if you have any, and we will talk soon.